forgot to introduce myself at the beginning. Rick Gabory is the one who normally runs these meetings, and he's away farming for this next month or so. And I'm Leslie Vivian. So now we move into the highlight of the evening. Yes, Adrien, that's you. I first discovered Adrien on TikTok. He's Adrien_the_realist. He has some very interesting diagrams on all sorts of things that are going on. So I will recommend you listen to him, minus the swearing. So please, let's give a warm Calgary welcome to our guest speaker today.
Well, that's a good introduction, minus the swearing. So my name is Adrien Thomas. I come from Saskatchewan. I was born and raised in a little town. It was a place called Denton. I was born and raised there for 10 years with my grandfather. He was a trapper. He was a farmer. And he was one of the main guys that walked in 1984 to court. Brian Maroney and all these people there, right? And he used to always talk to me about the treaties. And there are a lot of things in regards to that, the truest definition of Canada's laws. You know, a lot of people don't understand this because I don't think it's taught in schools. And a lot of people think that it's really not, you know, relevant in your world, but the truth is it's all of our world. And I think it's very, very important. Why I say these things is because one of the biggest things that has been hashtagged quite a bit for the last couple of years is that treaty is land. I don't know if you guys heard about that. Treaty is land in any kind of continent, whether it's a war, you name it. When they scream treaty, it's only because of the conditions of the land. It's not so much about humanist rights. A lot of times they say it is. But if we look at history, the biggest thing that we can always look at is, what do they really want? You know, nobody wants to say it, but it's land, resources. One of the biggest things, right? And when one person was coming up to me, and I might as well address this now, that flag, you know, it means a lot to my culture. It used to mean a lot to our culture until 1940. And it had a lot to do with a certain individual. And I don't know if you guys know this, and this is why I keep on talking about treaty, our culture, and things that they don't teach you in school. And I think it has a lot to do with the identity or the ideology of media today. And maybe it was always media down the line, because at one time we used to be a savage Indian or a waiting bird. You know, that's what they used to put down. But the truth is, you know, it's just ignorance. Racism ain't nothing but ignorance. I don't believe in racism at all. What I believe in is that the fact that when it comes to land, when it comes down to policy or culture, we may not understand each other. And because of that, sometimes we get divided. And that is the reason why that is here today. I'm not here to make you guys, you know, glorify it in any other way, but it means a lot to our culture. So, like I said, I'm gonna have to explain it because some people don't understand what it really means. For us, the Thunderbird, the folklore of the Thunderbird, it means a great big bird, but at the same time too, it's a spirit of truth. In a lot of Native American folklore, it means that if you have a good nation, a good tribe, right? The truth will always bless that tribe more. But if you have a tribe that is deceitful, what does the truth do to them? It destroys them. And this will make a lot more sense to you if I describe the stars and quasars. You guys have the Big Dipper. You guys see it. There's 7 stars in the Big Dipper. For us, 7 is a very holy number. Not only that, is because it's the 7 grandfather teachings. Love, wisdom, respect, all these things come together. When you put it together, it becomes truthful. It becomes the identity of truth and honorability. So when we look at that in the North Star, usually the North Star is right in the middle, right on top. You have the Big Dipper, 90 degrees every season. Didn't you notice that it changes direction? Exactly 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. You put that on the ground, you have the swastika. That's what it is for us. The 4 directions, the 4 colors. That's what it's meant for. The white has the power of fire. This is why we always say the white man has the power of combustion. The black people have the power of water. You go down to Africa, they even have swastikas over there as well too. All nations have swastikas. The yellow have the power of the sky, which we always use the wind, or the internet. Like over there, that's how we always look at it ourselves. And the red, that's the power of the ground. Earth, wind, fire, ground. Hopefully that makes sense. And those two feathers represent male and female. Hopefully that makes sense when we're talking about certain things, because a lot of people are very confused when we talk about Hitler and a lot of, the wars and stuff like that. Now let's go down to 1890. I don't know if you guys ever heard of an author named Karl May. He was a very, very famous author in Germany. And in his books, he used to talk about Native Americans, which is, his noble Native American, and he had this German brother that used to go across America, and he was an Apache chief called Victor. Part of Victor was he carried a swirling log, which was an Navajo symbol. These books were very, very popular, and he sold 200 million copies in Germany. And one person in particular loved his books. And as a matter of fact, he went to Venice, or I think it was Venice, to go see and watch him, because there's actually pictures of him sitting there taking a big picture of, a young Adolf Hitler looking at Karl May, 1911. So these are the things that, this is not propaganda, this is just history. They talked about it even in the Nuremberg trials, SS soldiers. Like I said, I'm not glorifying that thing. It's just where it comes from. So the farther we go into it, we realize that he made this party. So in 1939,
What was the name of the writer again?
Karl May with a K.
K-A-R-L?
K-A-R-L-M-A-Y. Yeah. So in 1939, there was this, all the hell broke loose up in Europe. The chancellor went over there and went to talk to Mr. Hitler, Adolf Hitler. And they said, you guys got one of your Native American Indians in your guys' army? He says, yes, we do. As a matter of fact, he's a big man. Took the Native American over there in 1940, shook hands with Hitler. You see, at that time, nobody knew about the atrocities that was actually going on. We just knew it was a war. And that's the truth. At that time, the United States didn't want to even be involved with this war because of a lot of political upheavals. They didn't know about the atrocities till after the war, during, after the war. And I'm not here to bring in anything, but the truth is not always a good thing to be told, whether it's good or not. But that's the reason, that's the same year, 1940, that they made a proclamation in America that all Native Americans would sign away the swastika. That's what they said. To find out that they were Hollywood Indians. They'll do that because of propaganda. We still have some of those symbols in our schools in Saskatchewan. We still have them. My Native Americans still have beadwork. They do. But then, here's the funny thing. Our Native Americans that actually went to that war, they were promised to get off the reservation. Because we were not allowed off the reservation until 1951. How many years after the war?
6 years.
So we were not off the reserve until that time. But when we did go to war, we were promised that we would have freedoms. To actually live off the reservation, to go hunting, to have land. To find out that when we got off the boats, we got granted land maybe for half a year, and then Indian agents, Indian Affairs, took it away from the Native Americans because it was illegal for Native Americans to own land. And now you heard this terminology, non-status Indians. That's where they got the terminology is from, because not only did they lose their land, they lost their status as Native Americans. And here's the funny thing. It was illegal for us until 1978 in the United States to study our cultures. 1979 in America and Canada here. I remember going to school speaking Cree and you get strapped until 1990. 1990 is the time that they told us that that we can actually take back our schools. So this is the first time Canadian government has given us our schooling system back. But what do you think we have lost? We already lost our culture, spirituality. I'm glad that my grandfather actually used to go back down to the Sweats. He spent almost 3.5 years in jail for, I think, the sweat, when he got caught. But it's not your fault. Just letting you guys know, just education, right?
The Sweats is the Sweat Lodge.
Yeah. So that is exactly what he went to jail for. And, for me, I was not allowed to speak Cree. I was speaking Cree until I was, I think, 4 or 5, until my grandfather told me I could not speak it in the old house there either. Because what has happened is as soon as I got to school, I started speaking strap, right? So that's how I got taken into the system for almost 3 weeks, because they had to force English off of me, my Cree language. But neither here or there, I think God, the Creator, puts us in a weird situation for a reason. The way I look at it is, like a lot of people used to ask me, do you wish you could change anything in your past? I used to think so. I used to think I could change a lot of things. But the truth is, I'm happy that I actually went through these things. Because when you pray for knowledge and strength, He's not going to give it to you just because He gives it to you. He's going to knock you on your knees to the point you can't get up. That's how you get your strength when you actually get up. And knowledge to understand the reason why, So people tell me I'm knowledgeable. I don't think it's knowledge. I think it's just a matter of acceptance and understanding the truth in your heart. And these are the teachings that's come to me. And why I come today is not only because of that symbol. Like I said to a lot of people, I was on Maverick News and I was talking with CTV, talking with a lot of people that have talked to me about why that symbol. Because it's very intertwined with today's politics. People don't understand. I don't think the World War II has ever ended, you must know. Because the Native Americans are still in the concentration camps, called reservations. I also wanted to tell you guys it's not you guys' fault. It's not your fault for the Native Americans being in reservations, nor is it your ancestors. Whose fault is it? Is the Crown. How many countries does the Crown own? 56. The reason why Native Americans went to residential schools is that's a thing called the Indian Act. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Indian Act or understand what it really is. But the Indian Act is a form of documentation that keeps us segregated but into our own. They knew that when they signed the treaties, that they cannot have a nation within a nation. It's like having a country inside of a country. You know, I don't know if you know what kind of threat that would be to the Canadian government if we were free from our reservations, free from our treaty obligations as Native Americans. You see, the treaty is not only just for us, it takes two nations to make a treaty. You guys are also treaty too. Hopefully you guys know that, because what happens is like you have a pilgrim, and then you have Native Americans shaking hands for unity and peace. And in those treaties, people say, you gave up, you lost. We never did. We believed in truth. We believed in honorability. We believed in the seven grandfather teachings. We believe in honorability. These are the things that we believe in, and I'm pretty certain your ancestors believe that as well too. But like any other kind of controlling entity, Europe, you name it, Hitler, doesn't matter where it is, what do they like the most is land. Because it has a lot of resources and power. Because what they say in the Bible too, it's the law of the land. That's how it goes. See, a lot of you people know about, you guys know counselors, you guys, maybe some of you guys know some whatever, MLAs, you name it. The farther you get into, the higher you get into the Canadian government, whether it's provincial or federal, you'll realize that they still have to go to a certain set of rules. Treaty 6 territory. We talk about it. They say we have to honor Treaty 6 territory. They keep talking about this, but it's kind of funny that they don't talk about treaties in the House of Commons. Nobody knows because they want everybody to be ignorant. That's why we stem to racism, because of ignorance. But in the treaties, especially when you come down over here, we never ceded water. And this is very important to you guys, for you guys to understand. We never ceded over land. How many people own land right now? I'd have to count here. Okay, now if you stop paying taxes, do you guys own that land after 5 years? So do you actually really own the land? It's like rent. Exactly, they say 6 inches, but if you stop, you will confiscate it. This is very important for the farmers because you guys have to understand this. There's a thing called UNDROP. UNDRIP is for Native Americans, United Nations Declarations of the Rights of Indigenous People. But UNDROP is for you guys, United Nations Declarations of the Rights of Peasants and other people. That's what they call you. So with these, before I get into that section, I wanted to talk about the land, why the treaty is so important. You see, when I got into this fight, I probably brushed up on it in 1993. You know, I was 13 years old. My grandfather had passed away 3 years earlier in 1990. And I walked into a school, Leopold Central School, talked to a lot of farmers about the treaties because this is all I knew coming off the reservation. I find out nobody knew nothing. They knew nothing. It was just, you know, fallacy, whatever, it was fake. I sat there, okay, nothing. And then they came to my reservation and they said, treaty land entitlement. I don't know if you guys ever heard of treaty land entitlement. So, you know, World War II, World War I, they stole land from Native Americans. So let's just pretend this was the reservation. They took that section right here. They gave it to the white farmers and Canadians because they went to war. Because they promised you guys, your parents, money and land. So you're taking it from the Native American reservations. They made mistakes. Some of the reservations had really good land, but they taken it away. And then they leased some to the army. That was it. So in 1993, they said, we made a mistake, Native Americans. We will give you your land back because we understand. But here's the issue. Now, here's the deal that we're going to give you. Since we've taken this amount of land, we'll give you, let's say, $20 million. But since you can't get this land back anymore, 80% of that land has to be Crown land. Crown land. Not only will we give you the best land, we'll dictate it for you. We'll give it to you with, we'll give you this land that has parkland systems, the best parkland systems that we could find. Okay? Then with the other 20%, you can do whatever you want with it, but with this 80%. And we'll even give it to you at a discount. You know the funny thing about the Canadian government? They can't put pipelines through Crown land without special, permission from the Crown. But ironically speaking, since we are already owners underneath the treaty, we can buy back or we can cede our land under certain circumstances. Isn't it funny? So, all this beautiful land that they had, beautiful, beautiful land, all this animals and everything like that, it was high in natural resources. Okay? So, they gave us this land. We're happy. And I was sitting there. My grandfather used to tell me something. Don't ever sign anything the Canadian government gives you, no white paper. There's something that you want. I went down to those meetings and I said, FSIN. At that time, I think Perry Belgar was just coming into it. But I know Perry, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the name Perry Belgar. He was the AFN chief. You see, I used to make designer clothes, Native American. I went to 3.5 years of advanced fashion, leather, fashion designs with Beaver. So I got the privilege of meeting all these crooked bastards. So that was the good thing about it, right? But anyway, I'm sitting there, 13, 14 years old, talking to all these older Native Americans. What are you guys trying to do? He says, oh, they give us this money to buy this land. I said, okay, what's the deal about it? Oh, it seems about right. Got our lawyers look into it. The lawyers that the Canadian government bought and paid for. It's kind of funny. So I tried with Whitefish, with Chittick Lake, Saskatchewan, my Pelton Lake First Nations. I even talked to Sandy Lake and Mr. Wasses. Some of my family members over there. This is bullshit. They got the deal, everybody's happy. He used 20%, bought some land up in Saskatoon, you name it, started doing whatever. He could pool some of the money together. I think they were starting a casino, that was the talks at the time. I don't know, maybe it was Northern Lights Casino, I don't know. But anywho, when you look at that contract, underneath the treaty, between me and this man, we're sharing the land. We are brothers. Let's pretend that's the Crown. That is the first party that I will have to go to. Me and him, third party. If we disagree, we go to the Crown. But since he's the Canadian government, I'm not trying to put you out. Since he's the Canadian government, he becomes first party. That becomes third. So what does that mean? This land that we just bought is underneath the federal government. They don't want nothing to do with it no more. So now, where do you think they put the pipelines through? Pretty smart. They use Native American blood to buy all the resources that they want to go through with their pipelines. And since they were underneath them, we become first party underneath them, which means that all our Native American lands become federal. Used to be sovereign nations. There's still a clause that we are sovereign, but the land that we bought outside the reservation is federal. Smart. You see how they use that system? That's when I got involved, 1993. So I started talking about these things. And then we started talking about 1998, 99 when I went to school in Saskatoon. Then we started looking at RCMP. This is why I got involved with murder missing Indigenous women. At that time, we started finding out there was bodies all over Saskatoon, Edmonton, Calgary, Native American women in these snowdrifts. I don't know if you guys remember that. You see, my mom, she was a prostitute. You know, she was a drug addict. I've never done drugs in my life because of that. You know, I've seen all that, and I know what it can do, right? So I saw my mom go through this, and it really affected home when I was in Saskatoon, going for clothing designing, doing a little bit of politics with photography. And I told myself, I'm not going to be a politician. Hell no. My grandfather really wanted me to learn the system. But I walked out of that. It was prerequisites, politics, and political science, and walked out of it. But that really touched me. Seeing these women, 1998, and then the Starlight Tours. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Starlight Tours. I almost got picked up in Saskatoon walking to school by police. You know, they just said, what are you doing this side of the town? Blah, 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 blah. So I'm not against that. That actually put something in my head. When I was walking the streets and cops arrested me for no reason. I got out there, checked everything, told me to get out of the neighborhood, or they're gonna take me out of town. That wasn't my experience from them, but I heard there's a lot of experiences where they'll take Native American men, take one shoe off, put you out of town, and they'll expect you to walk to this, walk to the city with one shoe off, take one on. So you have to walk maybe 10 kilometers. They found like 3 bodies, I believe, in Saskatoon, frozen around that time. Right? Could have been me, I don't know. Could have been anybody, but that's what they used to do. So it stuck in my head. And, that was it. Came down from that point on, I left Saskatchewan, came to Edmonton. And when I found out about Edmonton, it was a beautiful place. There was no racism. There was just the dawn of Ralph Klein. He was straightforward. He would tell you what he thought. He'll throw loonies at you if you didn't go to school or work. I like that kind of a guy because at least I came from a different place to come over here. It wasn't liberalized. It wasn't. I hate the word liberalized. It wasn't left wing or right wing. It was just get to work. I learned a lot of it. Some people said it was racism. I don't believe in it. My grandfather never believed it in me either. It just when you get to know somebody, people get to know you. It was the iniquities of man. It was who the hell you really were as a person, And after a while, they get to know you. That was good. And best friends I ever had were millionaires. Working with drywall industry. I had a little company called Pro City Drywall because an Italian taught me, drywall. But I've been doing it since '93, taping and drywall. But coming over here, they taught me. So I learned all these things until 2008, because this idiot named Stephen Harper came. I like the guy, but he sold out of water in 2008. I don't know if you guys know that, to China. So 2008 came, he sold out of water to China, and my grandfather used to always tell me, watch the resources. Look at that. China bringing in an old derrick, either the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, but he traded because China had a lot of pollution. And so now we're shipping water to China. And at that time, I'm getting involved, and I'm talking to a lot of people, especially in the Native American community, then it hits on the radar on Facebook that, oh, guess what? In 12 to 14 years from now, there's going to be our largest transfer of natural resources in the world. That's going to happen in Canada. I don't know if you guys know that, but in 2008, we had that big bailout for Dodge and Chef. When they had, what do you call, the crash of America, and Obama was just...
That was a crisis.
Everything was crashed because of this World War and everything like that. And you had to give them $4 billion to Dodge, Chef, and Ford for bailouts because they're going to lose their market. I don't know if you guys remember that. But I was sitting there listening to these things, and I was looking at the economical aspect of everything, and I said, okay, the CEO said water is not a right, a human right. Yeah.
Messed
that's
up.
me.
Messed up.
And that time he says the thing that you guys should invest into is water. Isn't it funny? They'll tell you things before it actually happens. And the funny thing is, I told you guys 10 years ago. But we didn't believe it because we're living in a glass houses now. So that happened. You're looking at that. I tried to be as vocal as I can in 2010. And then they started, I remember going down to Fort Saskatchewan, and there was a town hall meeting. I said, Adrien, you seem like a very smart person, can you come talk? Sure, I come talk. This is the time that they were trying to get rid of the cross with the school. I don't know if you guys remember that. They wanted to get rid of Jesus, Christianity, from the schools. If I know anything about politics and societies, they want to corrupt your leaders, take away your crosses, your religion, and at the very end, they'll divide your family. Well, that's the beginning, they'll divide your family then. The last thing in politics or any society to fall is your sexualization. In any great understanding, that's what happens. So I got involved. I went down to Fort Saskatchewan, started talking with the Shriners and all these people, 20-hat people, talking to them. And then they said, Adrien, you should run for, I was only 30 at the time. I said, no, I'll listen. I explained things as I could from my grandfather's teachings myself as well, even in my life. The more I learned what was going on, the more I realized that, people didn't understand too much, and then they let God out of the school. And some Native Americans stood up and they were kind of like, I'm so happy because they destroyed our nation. Christianity destroyed. I like to say Christianity did not destroy our nation. It was the Indian Act. The Indian Act bringing the residential schools. The Indian Act put us in reservations. The Indian Act made certain that our culture was gone and our language and our tongue is gone. The Indian Act gave us chief and council systems that are not ours. They never were ours. Okay? And even if we had good viable businesses, in the United States, the BIA, 3 times they rose higher than the Caucasian farmer. And then 3 times they got knocked down with Howard Wheeler Act, I believe it's called. Knocked them down to the point where the richest reservation and the poorest reservation suffer from the same abuses. The Bureau of Indian Affairs. The same thing as here as I like to say CIA, Canadian Indian Affairs. But that's what they did. No matter how much we rose, it took us the first time 15 years when they put policy on us. And we rose. Another 15 years again. We rose. And then they started making allotments smaller for us, so we couldn't really sell as much as we could. We paid it again. And then they made certain that we could not. In the 80s, why I bring this up is because in the 80s, my grandfather was a farmer and he wanted to go get wheat, right? And he's a farmer. We got a lot of wheat that year. But we only can sell a certain amount of yield. White farmers can do it all over except for us. So we get one of my grandfather's friends to sell the rest of the wheat. As long as he got a little bit of a cut of it, he'll sell the rest of the wheat. That's how we got over to some of the things. But we were only allowed to sell this much, but we were allowed to sell as much as we could. So now you're starting to see a trend in the reservation. Poverty exists there for a reason. Because they control you. The chief and council systems, the chief is not really the chief at all. It's a guy called the band administrator. The band administrator is contracted by INAC, which used to be called Indian Affairs. But he is also, and now it's called Northern Affairs Canada, but Indian Affairs. So the chief, the only thing you could do is direct small things, housing, maybe a store, fix the roads. Basically, he's a mayor. He ain't a chief. He's not a chief, and the thing is, even if he gets kicked off the ballot next year, he has no retirement fund. So do a lot of chiefs do after a while. They take as much as they can for their, exactly. They take as much as they can without no Transparency Act, no Electoral Act. It's free reign. And Justin Trudeau made certain, because, you know, like I said, to drop all those rules and reservations. Because Stephen Harper made certain that the Transparency Act was an agreement. But when Justin Trudeau made it in, why do you think all those Indians went at a truckload to vote him in? There was over at one time, I think at one time there was 61% of our Native Americans across Canada were in the red because of deficit and had a lot to do with corruption. Now he gave them an outing. All the Native Americans ran like crazy. And then he started putting all this policy in. So why I bring these things up here is for another reason, so you guys can understand there's a trend going on here. Native Americans were not allowed to be viable. We're not allowed to step up. And the Indian Act made certain that there was rules set upon a nation within a nation. Now, if we got rid of the Indian Act, what do you think will happen? Any answers? I'll tell you what will happen. You see, if you got rid of the Indian Act, and we don't pay taxes in our reservation, and this guy's Ford, he's Dodge, your Intel, your Mercedes, where would you guys like to build your guys' factory? Yeah, of course you would. Why do you think Dodge, Ford, and Chev went on to Mexico, Ireland, China? Because of the taxes. My aunt was a truck driver in 2008, so her job was to pick up all these brand new vehicles, take it to another state for 30 days, pick up the other one, as long as you're in rotation, you don't have to pay those taxes. It's cheaper to take those vehicles and park them there for a while, and then pick some other vehicles, and it had a lot to do with, I don't know if you guys know the NAFTA and TPP agreement. NAFTA and TPP agreement. It has a lot to do with, the trade agreement, Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Why China rose overnight? Because China at one time used to make vehicles at $4,000. Comes out to America, try to sell them at maybe $10,000. The United States said, you can't do that. You're going to kill the domestic product. You have to sell it at $18,000 or else Dodge and Chev and everybody will die. So China said, okay, I don't mind making an extra money. They made that money. They put it in the vault. While all along, their currency manipulation was the thing. They will drop their yen as far as they can. They grab this greenback when it's right, they put it into China's vaults, and now your vehicle is basically made at $2,000 and you made 100%, or maybe, I don't know, $20,000 out of nowhere. Well, our American companies were dying. Detroit City died. That's how they do it. What do you think the biggest influence is in the world right now? That Canada is influenced by what country? Do you guys know? Of course, China. China. I mean, it's no secret about it. But this is the identity, the ideology of currency manipulation, economics. now you're starting to see what's actually going on. This is why they won't want Native Americans to have, to take away the Indian Act. Because I like to do business with all of you guys, you know, because it'll be better for you guys. Where does your money go to? You got Justin Trudeau, who spent more money than all, you know, our prime ministers combined. And I like to say, when I got into it, before I get to that, you know, 2013, I don't know if you guys know, 2008, it was November of 2008, I made 6 pages called Murder Missing Indigenous Women. It was called Murder Missing Indian Women at first, but it's Indigenous, because apparently we're supposed to be Indigenous, you know. But I like Indian. I like everybody to call me Indian because Indigenous is the United Nations word. First Nations does not have no constitutional bearing in Canada. On the treaty it says Native American Indian. Why do you think they have identity politics? Yep, to divide. You see, never take away your name on that treaty. Always have identity to who you are. I'm a distinct nation. I'm from the Cree Nation. Métis. I know a lot of people ask me why you talk about them all the time. It's because Métis come from the Cree. Métis, which means a block of wood. It's kind of funny, people don't understand. So a block of wood, why do we say a block of wood? They come from the land, but the roots got cut off. That's what Métis means. To you, it means half-bred. But it's not true. It only comes from the Cree. It only comes from the Patoche and the Red River. It is between the Cree and the French. They speak with Chif. It's their own little, you know, thing, and their own customs and culture. So they're all distinct. And how we became the Métis, we used to call them the Blue Children. The Blue Children in the reservation prior to 1951. A lot of we had wars, the 78-year war between Dakota, Sioux, all the way down. I don't know if you guys heard of Custer's Last Stand and everything like that. We had these big wars. And then Sitting Bull came, met with because I'm indirectly, but in my territory, I'm from the Big Bear clan. So that's our clan from Saskatchewan. That's who we met, and they went back. So why we always look at these kind of things, and at that time, we got put in reservations, and it was worse in Canada than it was in the United States. Sure, it was worse. There was no distinction. So our women, since we were not allowed to hunt, we're not allowed to leave the reservation, we're not allowed to do anything. The women were next in line to be our warriors. Do you know what they did to get meat at the wood shacks? Because there was an Indian agent there. They would prostitute themselves in order to get meat to save our nation. Then we had the Blue Children. That's what we call the Métis, and that's where they came from. They got taken away, and they got put in the residential schools as well too. When they came back, they already had their own understanding. But we always looked at them and say, you have one of two, Nihiao or Muniao. You guys know what Muniao means? They say white man. Nihiao means people like us. Muniao means people not like us. So you have to pick, there's no gray zone. You're either a Native American or you're somewhere else. Métis chose to be, they said, we get beat on the Native side and we get beat on the white man's side, so we're just going to stick to our own. Which is probably pretty smart for them, you know? So that's what they learned their understanding. So this is a terminology you guys must understand, because underneath the Land Stewardship Acts, you're going to see Métis Settlement Acts. Now they're identified as Métis. See, identifying ideologies are very devastating, especially for a farmer.
Identify as Métis.
There you go. He was identified, and I give it to him too. That's my grandfather. No, he's part of my team. But we were laughing about it because we went down to Bill C-53 for protesting against it up in Ottawa on September 30th of last year. It was 20th of last year. And we realized that all those Native Americans that were protesting with it, against it, that whole stage was bought and paid for by Jamie Singh, NDP. So you look at the Native Americans, and all of them, they didn't want me on the stage because I was going to drop some truth bombs. And they said, "Oh, we got to get this Adrien out of here." Although we support you from afar, but you know, they didn't want me up there, right? Because I was going to say how it was. I was going to bring the identity of 18 nations because it only comes from the Cree. It doesn't come from the East Coast. You got the 6 nations. That is theirs. Colonization came from that point. We had our own wars between Tecumseh and our sides over here. When Canada was when the Native Americans, Tecumseh, worked with Canada to free, this is how we burnt down the White House. We burnt down that White House, we just burnt it down. And a part of the deal was when the United States decided to cede over to Canada, okay, we'll stop the war. But we want that little redskin bastard. You see, Canada made a deal with Tecumseh. They said, if you guys finish this war off, help us, we'll give you this part of Canada. That's why Tecumseh came over here and we said, don't trust them. They're gonna lie to you. He took off backward, pissed off. The West Coast Indians don't want nothing to do with this war. They don't believe that we're gonna win. What happened? As soon as Canada ceded over to the war, the United States made a little treaty. The only thing that the United States wanted was a dead Indian because he was so damn freaking good. Why wouldn't Canada give him that Indian? Because the deal was he was supposed to get this land, right? Oh, it works for both sides. Let's kill him. They gave the body of Tecumseh to the United States, and that land was never ceded over to the Native Americans. You see, that's how dirty politics is. That's politics. It's not about how racial it is, it's just power and greed. So these are the things that people have to understand. So now, working with the East Coast, we already still have this kind of war. The Cree, Treaty 6 territory, we knew what kind of bull crap that they always pew over there all the damn time. Nothing against them, we want them to be smart, beautiful people. But we see what's going on over there.
No, I want to be behind.
Most of all your political decisions are made by the East Coast Native Americans that don't have culture. When I went over there, they walked through the circle. You're supposed to go counterclockwise. Not through the circle, clockwise. Here I was going to, my grandmother would slap me, right? Clockwise, but they went counterclockwise, they went through the circle, they went back through the circle, and I said, oh man, if you were in Big River First Nations, a stop you would have grabbed a stick and whap, hit you. And there's still some communities that will hit you, tell you to shut the hell up, sit down, you know, a bit, do not say anything. You got an elder right there, if somebody said, shh, they'll stop you. We all grew up that way, I did, but at the same time too, I think that's what we need. No offense today, I'm not trying to rise anything, but that's how it was. Culture is important. Language is important. So why I talk about these things is I have to bring it back to your guys' culture. Your ancestors used to be like the Native Americans before Germania was divided into so many pieces. Before Roman conquest, did you guys know that you guys used to be running around with bow and arrows looking like Native Americans? Your ancestors used to. Did you guys know that you guys had your own cultural sweats, whatnot? You guys used to. You guys had your own languages, distinct nations. You guys had tribes. You guys all used to have that. Klansmen. And I ask you guys one question. What happened? Do you guys know your guys' traditional languages?
The Roman Empire never.
Nothing against you guys, but probably not. Because that's what colonization did to you guys. You guys, your blood was a part of that land. You guys had blood to a land, to a sacred rock, whatever it was. And I say these things is because in order to take land, they have to destroy a culture. They have to destroy a language. They have to destroy an identity. And just like that movie Braveheart, I don't know if you guys watched that movie Braveheart, what did the king say? When all the Irish and the Scottish, they didn't want to listen to them. I forgot it was called Invictus something. I don't know what it
Prima
was. If they don't
Prima
want
nocta.
to listen, we'll breed it out of them. So the king made it certain that his dukes and all his people, if you guys were married woman, you wouldn't be with your husband that first night. Because it was the king's right to have his men with you first. Do you know why that was? To make Métis. That's what it was. Politics. It wasn't about the identity of spirituality. It was because they knew the power of the land and how they could use it out of it. They could take the power of the land away from you. You see? So, my grandfather used to always tell me, the downfall of Canada will come internationally. One and first, it will come from the crown. The second thing is they're going to use your blood. We are the only people on this planet right now that actually use blood quantum. The only people in the modern world that hold a treaty that actually has blood. Isn't that funny? Some people will say it's racial, it's not.
What was that term? Blood what?
Blood quantum.
What? Is that like signing in blood?
No. I have to follow my Native American blood to prove heritage. If I lose my blood, I lose my status. We're the only people in the natural world that actually do that. Isn't it weird? And the reason why it has a lot to do with that is because if the Indian Act goes, how many real Native Americans are left? And how much land will they own? I don't believe in ownership of land. I do not believe in ownership of land. That symbol means we protect land. We're protectors of land. And anybody who ever tells you any different from any Native American community, whether it's the East Coast, those sons of bitches, sorry, they tell you that, it's bullshit. They don't own land. They're supposed to be protectors. We welcomed you guys in honor and unity. That's what it was about. And we're supposed to be protecting. We're supposed to be using all those colors together in unity and beauty for our future. And who is more important than us? Animals, water, trees. Life is more important than us. See, I used to have this little, I used to burn ants too with a magnifying glass. My grandfather came up to me one day and said, "What are you doing with that magnifying glass? Burning the ant. Why?" It's just an ant. Then he sat there and he says, "You know what? That ant knows what he's doing in life. He has one, job. The other one has another job. We put them together, they're very smart creatures." He says, "Okay. And you have to understand that he's very, very innocent. Innocent. There's nothing wrong with his existence. He's not impure. He knows exactly who he is and what he does." I used to sit there, "Oh, okay. And you, no sons, grandson, You are blessed with knowledge. Okay? And he told me, one day you'll understand, if you ever decide to be a leader, you have to fight for that end. Because the more older you get, you'll realize how dirty we really are as people. I started looking at it. Now we have over 500 groups of freedom fighters. We're so knowledgeable, yet we can't even come together. What about our ant colony? How beautiful is that when they can come together? And they don't even have knowledge. So who's more, stronger?
Yeah, it's like two.
Yeah. They are way more stronger, they're more powerful, because they understand their role. And we're supposed to be powerful people. So I come here today with this kind of knowledge, understanding of that, a lot of things down the line, the understanding of culture, the understanding of where we're at, Treaty 6 territory. The last great battle was fought, I think it was, I'm not even pretend to know that, but it was between the Cree and the Blackfoot. 40 of their men died, I think 140 of ours died. And that was the last one, and that was it. And then I came to be, and I saw everything I was going through. And then something hit me after Murder Missing Indigenous Woman, understanding that when I was on the stage with Murder Missing Indigenous Woman, I left that page in 2013. Politics got involved. Mind you, I was a bad boy. I've been always a bad boy all my life. And I might as well just be as honest as I can, because I'm not going to win no Christian award. I was involved with 2 women on that page. I'm not proud of it, but I think I had to learn this lesson, just like what everybody tells me, what could you change? Those women kicked me off that page because they wanted power and they knew that politics was coming into play. Murder Missing Indigenous Women, we got approached by some political entities and they said, blame the white man. Only blame the white man. Blame the white man for every atrocity you have. You see what they were trying to do? They said, within this page, you're going to be a big page pretty soon. If we blame the white man and all the Native Americans. Since they're already professional victims right now, let's give them more victimization. We are not victims. We're supposed to be warriors. And I've said that all the way through, and down the line, to the point where I pissed off a lot of residential school survivors too. And they're supposed to be my elders, but I look at eldership as knowledge and heart. Just because you're an old bastard doesn't mean you're an elder. I'm sorry to say it. This is follow your heart and understand the truth. And I don't think there's such thing as wisdom that we were talking about before. It's the courage to tell the truth no matter what. That's the hard thing. Because it destroys you too. Because you have to take your whipping from the crowd. So, I told them the truth. I don't believe this is right. Those women destroyed my marriage. Well, I destroyed my marriage, let's be honest, I did. But they told everything. She left me in 2013. There's a lot of things that I was not a good man either, because I was violent, because of my past as well too. But I let go. I had to learn some things. Murder Missing Indigenous Woman turned into a big page. You see it all over the place. Turned big. There's 12 pages. And then in 2019, before I go into that, this is how this play came to. I went to a ceremony. I did a 5-day ceremony. And in that ceremony, this was in 2017, I was with my daughter. So I'm sitting there, there's 3 things I told them. I had a dream that I would go counterclockwise around Edmonton with this play. I didn't know why, but I was walking with this flag. And in my dream, I had this guy named Leon Keenach with me. And as soon as you got to the last bridge, all these Native Americans came down. And as soon as they came down, I said, Leon, don't say nothing till we get there. Okay? I won't say nothing. As soon as they came down, fire came from my breath. And it destroyed them all. And I had to say this to an old lady, right? Going through this ceremony. She was upset. What does that mean? It means this and this and this, Indian Act, this, the Native American Chief of Council is nothing but crooks. These women lost this way, the men are in jail, that they, you know, are the highest suicide rate is Native Americans, the highest sexual abuse is Native Americans for a 2.3 population. It's an epidemic. I said all these things to her. And she got up. I think she wanted to hit me because it was, you know, what she did. The next day she came back, she told me, I was listening to everything you said, and it's true. I wanted to hit you because you went against everybody. Everybody. You went against a woman. In my words, I call them, I hate to say it, but they were very slutty. Broken women. Men, I said these Native American men, there's no more men. They leave their little bastards at home, I said. They go to jail. And then at the same time, our elders are supposed to be elders, but they're not elders because they're not doing elder shit. I would say a whole bunch of stuff. All the way down the line to an elder. And my chief and council systems are nothing but bona fide crooks. They didn't like it. Oh, the next day she said, I wanted to hit you last night, but you said that you spat on your people. I didn't spit on my people, I just told the truth. She understood. He says, there's some good people out there. Of course there are. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people in what's going on. So, I let it go. There's 3 predictions, she said. You're going to fight your own people one day in that dream. The second thing is, you're going to walk with that girl that you came with, my daughter. And it's going to end sadly. And the third thing is, you're going to do that walk with that flag. Okay. 2019, I'm in BC. I'm sitting there having a good meal, doing photography, you name it. I'm looking at that stupid page I left behind a long damn time ago. It was getting popular, but I was getting pissed off because I'm a photographer too. I didn't tell you guys that, but I was a clothing designer. Part of that was fashion photography. But I was doing landscape. To find out that a lot of those women are on those pages with their handprints on their faces, it was sad because I knew some of those models and I knew the people that were taking those shots and the photographers. They were sexualizing themselves for modeling gigs on a murdered and missing Indigenous woman page, which was about prostitution. Not murdered people, but prostitution. That's how it started. I started this page because I wanted awareness to the actions of the reservation, sexual abuse. Why do they leave the reservation? And when they get to the streets, who's trafficking them is our Native American people called the gang system. It's not the white people that's trafficking our people, it's our own people. They don't want to hear that truth. That's why they kicked me off. They wanted to only blame the white man. And I said, you want to save this little poor community? You gotta be honest. Real chief and councils, elders, real women come together, get a real freaking talk, come down to truth, because I guarantee you in 10 to 15 years our grandchildren will start killing themselves. And now what do we have? We have the highest methamphetamine, fentanyl rates, gang systems in Canada for a 2.3 population in Canada. That's what the page was about. It wasn't about people stealing these women. It was about the systemic abuses that were in the community with residential schools and everything. We had to come down to the real people. I like to say the elites. Because why did they needed to destroy this culture was because of the blood in this land with that treaty. That's what they needed to do. They did a good damn job. So anyways, I start talking online. I said everything that was happening in 2019. I leave BC because you don't have no, if everybody knows when you drive through BC, you have, first you have service and then you don't. So I said whatever I had to say. I'm over there for 4 hours. I go eat. I take off. As soon as I started halfway through Edmonton, get to Edmonton, ching, 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 ching. Holy crap, what the hell's going on? By this time they had about 12 pages. Murder missing Indigenous women. All of them were pissed off at me because I'm saying the truth, and all of them are divided. Finally somebody said it. That's not true. Some people say, why would you say so? And I got hit big time from a lot of people. I didn't say nothing. It was okay. So I go on to this other page that I made. It's called Res Fights, and then there's a hot, beautiful woman. I was on there, then they called me onto this one page called Sober Native Humor. And I said some things, and I thought it was kind of funny. I said, I like you Indians when you guys are drunk, so at least then you guys will take a joke, right? I thought it was fun. And people could see it. I mean, back 20 years ago, I wouldn't be canceled today if I was a comedian, right? I said these things, and all of a sudden one guy comes on there and says, Adrien, you said this. All these people knew where I was, and they started attacking me online. And then this guy named Tim Gunville, never forget the name. There's a thing called fake chat, or fake something like that. He taken my profile picture, the weirdest picture ever, because I said, make America great. I never had that on my profile to begin with, let's put it out there. But he made it really good. He taken my profile picture, or one picture that he found, said, make America great, put my ugly face online, took a picture, and he said, hi Adrien, hi Tim, my name is Adrien, the King Thomas, blah, 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 I'll steal a child, blah, 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 I sell a child for $23,000, be careful. It sounded so fake, but guess who picked it up? Murdered and missing an Indigenous woman, the page that actually made, ironically, took that picture and put it online. I got phone calls from India, England, Ireland, every 5 minutes, telling me that I was a child trafficker. It went viral, almost 3.4 million shares. Oh boy, it went everywhere. The girlfriend at the time, we're sitting there like, this is in just less than 5 hours, our whole life. My business was growing. I had 34 people working for me, I made $2 million within 2 years. Not me, but the business going through, capital going through. I was doing good. I was still investing, whatever I could. Then it just stopped. They went after every single contractor that I knew, everybody, saying that I'm a trafficker. I got raided. Some of my videos, if you guys seen them, people put racist on them, smashed up everything. Gangsters came to my house. I thought there were 6, but there was 8. I went right in front of them. I said, tell me the truth. I said, let's talk. Why would I be scared of a lie? So I did. And I told Brittany at the time, there's 2 things we can do. Get shut off the phone, put it all down, whatever, and put my tail between my legs and run. Or I can fight. First prediction. Forced to fight. How the hell did that happen? So, next day, she left because the people are driving around the house, smashing my vehicle, went to my business, just bad. All the people cannot be associated with you, cannot be associated with you. They dropped all my contracts. I just finished as much as I could. All right, took the deal. That was it. My own page turned on me. Oh, and that's what I said. Let's fight. You know what I was going to be armed with? The truth. Chief and council systems, corruption, Indian Act, all the way down the line. I even fought those murder missing Indigenous women. All right, murder missing, I'll take on those bitches too. That's what I said. Oh, the day. It's like swearing at Jesus, apparently. I took off everybody. Everybody in the dog. I went swinging. I came with facts, like real facts. To the point where I was banned from a lot of reservations. I'm calling out the hypocrisy. I'm putting light underneath the dirt between all these chief and council systems. The elders that call themselves elders that take crooked deals. You know, the people that say this way and that way, but they're just used politically. This is how they take down the system. People, they get you, they buy your leaders. This is why I'm revered a lot. I was at one time the most hated Native American in Canada. The second thing that happened was, after everything was died down, they destroyed my business really good, but I ended up speaking up and I started getting very knowledgeable, and then one of my elders said, Adrien, now I think you made your point. Everybody's pissed off at you. Your name is everywhere. I went on TikTok for not even 6 months the first time. I accumulated 100,000 to 430,000 people on TikTok. Because that's how much they hated me. That I would say things to them. That I would actually use racism, which I don't believe, against my own people. And I said, how can I be racist? It's bullshit. I'm telling you the truth. They didn't like it. Then finally, at the end of everything died down. It was neutral now. The war was done. They ended up just blocking me, the Native American community, because every time they came after me, I would destroy them. I'd destroy them because I grew up in a reservation called Whitefish Reservation, Sandy Lake, Sandy Bay, which was at one time an epidemic for Canada for being what? The most suicidal reservation at one time. I know what huffing is. I've seen suicide twice, you know. I had a gun pointed to my head at, I think, 6, seeing my mom as a prostitute, seeing all these things, you know. And I said, you can't lie to me. God showed me everything. But I beat them to the point where they all blocked me because I seen probably just, if not more than the average person with sexual abuse as well. But I use that as my arsenal because that's the truth. So at the end of the day, they blocked me. And then, like I said, the second thing was I was going to walk with my daughter. 2 years ago to this day. She passed away. That's it all. I told myself I was going to be, emotional. But I know a lot of you are probably going through that or know people. So that's why I'm here. Second prediction. I ask myself sometimes, I ask God, where am I going? Because I don't want to be here. The third thing, with that guy and that guy. We walk with that. 3 predictions. So now we're going back down to politics. And I've always said certain things to people, you want to talk politics, politics isn't you. It's not these governmental people. These governmental people are liars. You are the new Native Americans pretty soon. Because you don't know what the 15-minute districts really are. You see, they're going to take your land. UNDROP is coming. I don't know if you guys even know what UNDROP is. UNDROP puts 27 land stewardship acts are on your land. Just like we did to us with those policies, where they made certain that we would never rise. Your land is free right now. You have Marriage Act. You got the Environmental Act. You got the Water Act. You got the Métis Settlement Act. All the way around. Did they ever say anything about your rights as a humanist? No, but they'll say environment and everything, carbon. It's a lie. They want that land back. And they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
True. But what they're gonna do is they're gonna use the Métis as well too.
And the Inuit.
In the East Coast, they have the highest rise of Métis. Identified. Why do you think they had identity politics prevalent for the last 10 years? They wanted to make certain that it was, didn't take your children. It made you scared. They're not going to do it. But they're going to say it. Residential school is coming to you guys because of the form of sexualization. Now you guys can't say nothing at all. Your child wants to be a boy or a girl. You guys want to stop it, but it's against the law now. What do you think they did to us? Took us away from our families. Residential school 2.0. There's a reason why I told you the whole story of what happened here. Because everything that's actually happening is coming to you guys. They want your land. The 15-minute districts ain't nothing more than a white man reservation. 10-minute districts. That's exactly what's going to happen. Last year they passed a law at Biden that all vehicles have to be electrical. They have to be with a cutoff switch. Why? When you pass that district, you can shut it off if you want. You can do these things. There's a lot of little laws that are getting passed, and everything has to do with power over you. Bill C-11, Bill C-18. 2019, they made certain that they can pass this law with the news that they can lie and not be accountable. So you guys can make your own, news now and lie all you want because it's not illegal anymore. But it's, that's what they said. They own the media. All your MLAs, I'm not saying all of them, but for the vast majority of them, they control the farmers in the land. They'll use third-party contractors. They won't do it themselves. They'll do that. They're going to set fires, and I know it sounds very, I don't give two shits. They're going to set fires because they killed a buffalo for us. What do you think they're going to do to you guys? They killed the buffalo. They killed the buffalo so we cannot prosper. Wildfires are the buffalo. They're killing your land. And they have environmental acts. Those papers are 27 land stewardship acts. So if that's the case, you live right here, they're going to make certain you're not allowed to go there now. It's against the law. That land that you used to have it, don't shut it off. You're not allowed to. We had, fire terminator come last year, and he had this really remarkable, beautiful product that could shut off all the fire. And he had to run out of Alberta. He's from, where is he, Africa?
Singapore.
Singapore? So he had that product, we took it down, you could try it, it's free. He bought the whole product for you guys in Alberta. It's free. Can you use it? No. You're not allowed to. As a matter of fact, we almost got arrested last year for going down to the fires up in, where's that, Edson?
Edson, you were at.
So we go over there, we go into this field, we see the firefighters right there, third-party firefighters, right, they're getting contracted. We go inside here, here's this part of the forest, all on fire. This side of the road, nothing. The farm, nothing, way around here. But they're here. I know a moss fire when I see one. We used to shut off fires in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. And they didn't shut it off. They shut off like they're torching shit. They shut it off. Torching. I said, did you shut this off? Oh, we're not going to do it anymore. They drove off and the cops come, you know, Selena Paley, and all of us were trying to do a report there. And I sat there and said, isn't it funny that we look all the way around this, everywhere around here, no damn fire, but where these firefighters were, there's a fire. And they shut it off, and they took off, and they let that little moss burn underneath there. How deep can that fire go?
Deep.
Up to 20 feet down. Those are the hardest fires to fight. But if they had the perfect product, and then he had to leave. He said, I'm scared. The African guy left. Singaporean guy left. They don't want us here. You clearly don't. NDP, politics. I'll tell you guys something. You guys as politicians are a bunch of fucking liars, I'm sorry to say. They're not here for you.
No, you don't.
They are not here for you guys one bit. I'll say Pierre Poilievre, it's gonna be worse.
Criminal.
I'll tell you right now, Stephen Harper was part of our elect now before. Justin Trudeau, he didn't come here to save Canada. Why I got involved was I know what happened in North Dakota Access Pipeline. They shut it down. That Chief Archibald got paid $2 million. The Native American Nation ran away from there because they got kicked off the reservation there. Yeah, they did. The same year Justin Trudeau made it in, he killed a pipeline that was part of the North Dakota Access Pipeline.
Do you?
And when they were making that pipeline going through BC, from the reservation area,
Okay.
I don't know how to get his attention.
environmentalists
I would just
came.
walk right over there
They helped the natives.
in his line of sight and
Guess
walk
who
down
paid?
there. Just be
Environmentalists.
like, put your hand up.
A guy named George Soros paid for that. And then Canada decided to go 100 kilometers over here, go right through into BC, where they're going to actually be free to have, you know, economical viability. So that's as far as I can take it, I guess.
Questions and answers.
Okay. You guys got any
Right
questions?
here, right here, right here.
So, during the election here, I was doing stories on UNDRIP. And my understanding at that time was that what they were going to do was they were going to confiscate land by giving it to the indigenous, which is basically anyone that's been born here. And then when the Indians signed the contract to receive that land as a indigenous person, they would lose their Indian treaty rights, and then the government would then take the land directly from Indians. So I'm a little confused now if that's what you agree or disagree with, because at the time, I thought it was best for people to maintain the Indian Act and define themselves as Indian to protect their own land and ours, actually, indirectly. And now you're mentioning UNDROP, and I'm not sure if what I had thought is correct based on what you're telling me now.
Okay. I consider myself Native American Indian. I don't give two craps what anybody says. Aboriginal is supposed to be, they say Aboriginal, but still United Nations. Indigenous is United Nations. What do you call Inuit are not Native American at all. They're not Native American at all. What they are is a different race. So this will probably help you to understand it. Now they're trying to identify a white person and Inuit as Métis. That don't make no freaking sense. If it's a different race and it's not Native American and they're trying to make them Métis, it's different, okay? So UNDROP and UNDRIP. We've been told about this in 2014, 15, 13, that in 10 years Native Americans are going to have all the power. But the reason why they said that is because there was a false. They didn't give us this power to fight the white man, take away the land. And why we are against this identity is because it's a lie. United Nations did the same thing in Australia and New Zealand. 93% of New Zealand land doesn't even belong to them no more. By going with UNDRIP. And the same thing happened for the people of the Voice, which was Australia. They don't have a damn say no more of their land. They use their blood to take out other people, to take out themselves. Basically, it's a monopoly. They made all the rules. That land belongs to them, but they can play any way they want to the point where it's poverty. You can't get out of the systems unless it's just poverty. So you sell out. And now they own the land and also the game. They'll give you what you want for a while, but that's just how it is. Just one. So what I'm saying is UNDRIP is one thing. UNDROP, what they're trying to do is put the land stewardship back on you guys and everything like that. They're going to call you as peasants. And the real threat for us, all the way down the line, and I'm not saying the real Métis are real with us, the Bill C-53, they are with us, like Batoche and the real Red River, but the fake indigenous identifying ones, those are the ones that are going to be used by United Nations to buy out more than 50% of, or 51% of Canada, because a lot of the Canada is unceded territory. In order for them to have a treaty is land. So what's going to happen is they're going to give treaty status to the Métis Nation. Okay? Now they have to acquire land. All these fake bastards from the East Coast over here, they're self-identifying as Métis. They're going to go, now they have to seek land. All of Canada is the land here. So they're going to start putting their seeds all over the place over here because now we're Métis Nation. Now more than 50% of Canada could go into Métis because now they've become the most powerful nation because first and foremost, they are not dictated by the Indian Act. Which means they are white people who just got status, right? I'm not trying to put nobody underneath it, for land. Now they're white people that have no Indian Act to dictate them where they can't prosper. That's one. Secondly, they're going to take 1/3 of the Native American treaty because apparently we're related. Anyway, 1/3 of their treaty, which brings the total allocation of over 81 to 84%. What do you think they said, United Nations, by 2030, 85% of Canada will belong, or 80% of Canada will belong to United Nations? That's how they do it. Ireland lost its land, and Scotland lost its land to the Crown. How else do you think they did it? Hopefully that makes sense.
The curiosity I have is that you spoke of the corruption within a lot of the reserves and the administration or chiefs fall towards the corruption. Sometimes human nature at its best, it's just there, but there's a couple of bands, one in particular, Sawridge in Canada.
Okay.
They appear at least to be quite successful, both financially and their people and such. Is there something there
They're using
that is what it looks successful, but it really isn't, or what?
It's Ellis Ross, and one of his things that he learned is that you can go through the, you use the Indian Act in a certain way, and you make deals in between this and this and this. There are back doors that you can actually find. So that's what he has done. And Ellis Ross is a very good, smart guy. I mean, I talked to him a couple times. He understands, and also he understands that UNDROP is here to take those people's lands too. So don't worry about it. As you know, they can be as successful as you want. At the end, they're gonna lose it. It's just what's gonna happen.